The district's annual Overnight Arts Festival, Mayor Muriel Bowser Presents Art All Night, is back this year to kick off the fall festival season. Art All Night is a 2-night event that celebrates the district's performing, visual, and for the first time, culinary arts with the addition of Dine All Night. The free festival will be held across all 8 wards on September 29th and 30th from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. More than 100 local artists and over 50 local restaurants and 20 main streets and business improvement districts are participating. Visit dcartallnight.org to map out your experience for the festival and for more information.
Today on CityCast DC, Amanda Michelle Gomez from WAMU is here with me and CityCast's Julia Caron to talk about her reporting on liquor licenses and allegations of discrimination against Black businesses in DC. We'll also be talking about a big renovation at the Smithsonian's American Art Museum and Metro's scheme to rename bus lines with your help. Today is Friday, September 22nd. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, Julia.
Hey, Mike.
And Amanda Gomez, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
So you did a story that got rolled out with a lot of fanfare at DCist and WAMU, dealing with your investigation of liquor license protests and Advisory Neighborhood Commission alleged discrimination against Black-owned restaurants, bars, businesses. For folks who don't follow the intricacies of Advisory Neighborhood Commission politics, one of the most infuriating to a lot of people things in DC is that these nonpartisan, locally elected neighborhood bodies get a lot of say-so over who gets a liquor license and who doesn't. Tell us about your reporting, where you focused and what you found.
Yeah, so I focused on a popular commercial corridor, 8th Street. I saw on social media there's a Black business owner, Chef JR. He owns Kitchen Cray, or I guess he owned Kitchen Cray on 8th Street because they've now closed. But the lead up to that, he was, alleging that the Advisory Neighborhood Commission there, 6A, was discriminating against him. And he was, it was very wild. I was kind of watching this on his Instagram. He was like posting, there was this meeting between the ANC and the mayor's team and him because things have gotten so contentious. And I was like, what's going on over there? And then he posted this like surveillance video of a commissioner going inside his basement, which was closed. And he was like saying that he came in and stole something. And I was just like watching this unfold on like his social media and was like, what the heck is going on? And so I interviewed him and he was saying that the ANC is racist and, I'm not the only one who feels this way. So that kind of started this investigation. I was like, okay, this is really big allegation. This is really hard to prove. But then I also had heard about like this tension between the business community and the ANC. And so I've heard it in like different corridors. And I was like, all right, there's something here. Let's like look. And so I talked to a ton of business owners on 8th Street and asked them that very thing. Like, do you think the ANC is, discriminates against a certain type of people, Black people, certain type of business, bars, whatever? And more often than not, I was either hearing an enthusiastic yes, or I was hearing, well, my experience, I don't know, but I mean, the ANC is just a pain in the butt, right? It was either or.
Right. Which, just to be clear, anyone who owns a bar or restaurant would say, absent any identity-based allegations, the ANCs and bar or restaurant owners are almost set up to clash.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
The place where advisory neighborhood commissions have their greatest muscle vis-a-vis restaurants, bars, et cetera, is when they are applying for a new liquor license or to renew a liquor license. And that's when they can do this thing called protesting it, which often is done as just a matter of course. We protest every single one of them in order to get to make a deal with them that they will only have, 17 seats on their patio or whatever it is that we want to achieve. But it is the ANC's discretion who to protest. And you found in the data that their protests were more likely to hit Black-owned restaurants than not.
That's exactly right. The agency that oversees liquor licenses, like APCA, the Alcohol, Beverage, and Cannabis Administration. They just gave me the data, and I was like, thank you. That was very helpful. And like showed me the last 5 years from 2018, all the businesses that would be subject to protests from the ANC or other neighbors. Of the 36 businesses, 6 were protested, 5 were owned by people of color, 4 were Black-owned businesses. And, I brought it to the ANC and was like, what's going on? Do you think this? And frankly, they were like, to your point, our policy is to protest every new business, unless a settlement agreement, an agreement on how the business will operate, unless we can agree on something, on the terms. And I should say that's right. The ANC is majority white. And I've heard this from like several Black owners who I come here, they're asking me all these questions, like, what are you trying to do? And ANCs will defend, we asked this because we just want to know. But I think it's more so the way it's asked, like approach, and also like how it's received. And so there's fights, and sometimes it goes all the way to a hearing, which is like can be months long, right? I mean, lawyers told me 7 months, and then APCA, the agency, comes in and is like has to basically settle this disagreement between the business owner and the ANC. And lawyers told me it usually turns out in the favor of the business, like that they're not as onerous as the settlement agreement or whatever they want.
But in the meantime, they've been paying rent for 7 months and not having a business.
And lawyer fees. And the lawyer that I was speaking to, he's the restaurant association lawyer who's got involved in a lot of these. He was like, yeah, I mean, these can range from $15,000 to $50,000. It's a significant sum. Like, it's not nothing. And so while business owners don't have to enter into these agreements with commissioners, not only with commissioners, I've talked to a restaurant owner who entered into one with an association, because associations also have the ability to protest. So he entered into 2 different agreements. And he says, you sign them because then you're just, time, money, you just do it even though you don't have to, because you just want to get it over with.
So you focus specifically on the 8th Street corridor. I'm curious if you heard from other business owners in other neighborhoods and what they had to say about this process.
I did. So when I was talking to lawyers about this, they were like, well, that wasn't even the worst of it. You should have seen the situation in Adams Morgan. And I was like, oh, what happened? He was like, that felt very questionable. And so there was this Adams Morgan business. It was just a speakeasy inside a barbershop. He bought a property with the intention of turning it into the speakeasy. And he said he was fighting with the ANC left and right because, I mean, the biggest sticking point for him where he didn't want to just sign away into a settlement agreement was because they wanted him to close at 10 o'clock. And he was like, no.
Which is when all of his business would be. And on a busy Admo block, like on the main strip of Admo, that's like your target customer base, right?
Right. So he was just like, that's not right. And he did the calculation that you did. He's like, I'm not going to close that early. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. And so he, fought the ANC and he went all the way to a protest hearing. His wasn't until 10 months. It cost him tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. It was very expensive. He tells me, and his lawyer confirmed. And in fact, an ANC commissioner there, Peter Wood, was like watching this all play out and was like, what the heck is happening? Why are we fighting this business? There's not a lot of Black-owned businesses in Adams Morgan. Why are we doing this? And it turns out that one of the commissioners, because it was both the commissioner there and the Kalorama Citizens Association that were fighting this business. It turns out that the ANC commissioner that was kind of leading the charge had lived in a condo right across the street from that business and was concerned about noise and such, and had extra like skin in the game or whatever the expression is. But I mean, you get the drift. Is that he and Commissioner Wood was telling me that it was very unfair, and like even the tone of it, like some of the language used felt like discriminatory.
All right, so what I guess I'm hearing here is that the place where there seems to be a breakdown is in the thing that happens after they do their sort of rote protest, which is, all right, let's get together and we'll figure out, some kind of agreement we can all live with, and then we will greenlight you on your way. And in some of the cases you reported H Street, particularly in Kitchen Cray, that conversation itself felt disrespectful to the business owner. And it strikes me that this is really, this is like sort of democratic self-government. Like, how does a neighborhood decide what's going to happen? Based on the impact of your reporting, is there a fix? Like, what would you recommend for how to organize ourselves so that this kind of thing doesn't happen, or people don't feel discriminated against when there is a disagreement about a liquor license?
I think one thing that struck me reporting this was that the case of Kitchen Cray, these meetings were not run by the commissioners themselves, but appointees. I just think that process in itself, like, it attracts like the kind of nibbies who, like, I don't want to get involved in anything except approve or disapprove new businesses on the block, right? You're not going to get involved unless you are that person. Various business folks were like, if the ANC wants to, really be in charge of this, why are they outsourcing it? And that was like a very compelling point. Another recommendation that I felt that I was convinced by was, why are people allowed to protest a new business? Like, they haven't done anything yet, right? It's like this unknown that you're protesting. And so I think that's another, like, why are commissioners, why are neighbors, why are we allowed to protest something that's new and hasn't come yet?
Thank you very much, man. That was pretty good reporting there.
Thanks.
Coming soon to Cleveland Park in DC, the Loggia Towns at Uptown Plaza, which is a boutique collection of 4 brand new townhomes, with no 2 of them being alike. Located at Connecticut and Newark, each home features 2 to 3 bedrooms and dedicated outdoor space. Sales start in October. Visit uptownplazadc.com to join the VIP list and be the first to know when pre-sale commences. Again, that's uptownplazadc.com, uptownplazadc.com. Sales and marketing by Urban Pace. Hey, parents! Celebrate the joy of early learning with your little one at DC Public Library's annual Starfest. That's Saturday, September 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the MLK Library downtown. STAR stands for Sing, Talk, and Read, which are 3 key early literacy practices that will help your child grow into a confident learner. At this year's Starfest, you'll learn how you can add STAR practices to your daily routine. You'll also enjoy singing and dancing to live music, playing fun games, and more. At Starfest, DC families with young children can also sign up for the Books from Birth program to get a free book delivered to your home each month. Don't miss this year's Starfest on Saturday, September 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the MLK Library. Learn more at dclibrary.org/star. That's dclibrary.org/STAR. Speaking of public input, albeit in a less fraught way.
We're about to find out if it's less fraught. I don't know.
All right, remember Metro? They have buses too, and they are thinking of renaming all of the buses in DC, Maryland, and Virginia that they run. Julia, what is going on with that?
Yeah, so here's the deal. Metro is looking for better and more descriptive names for bus routes. This goes back to 1973 when the agency basically took over these bus companies and streetcars. Those were DC Transit, the Washington, Virginia, and Maryland Coach Company, the Alexandria, Barcroft, and Washington Transit Company in Nova, and the WMA Transit Company in Prince George's County. Basically, what happened was they kept all of those companies' own numbering systems to try and make it easier. Basically, it would try to alleviate some of the confusion, or so they thought. As of right now, it just makes us more confused.
But wait. So what do they want to rename them? Like the Chevy Chase Express?
Right. So in the old numbering and lettering scheme, there is like a little bit of method to this madness. So obviously there are exceptions to this rule, but like if it was a number only, like the 42 or the 92, it meant that was a Capital Transit streetcar back in 1936. So it mostly operates in DC. If it's a letter followed by one number, that meant Capital Transit bus from 1936. So that's like DC and Maryland. That's why the L2 goes from like Chevy Chase close to the Maryland side, comes into DC. If it's a letter and 2 numbers, that was the old WMNA service. That was from Prince George's County. And then if it's numbers, plural, and a letter, like the 2A or the 7A. That is mostly based in Virginia. So now Metro is asking for public input on what should we name our bus systems and our bus lines. What would be the easiest for people to remember? Is there a way to make this more streamlined and convenient and not from 1973 or 1936? Do you have input, guys?
I may be controversial. I am like fine with the letter. I am good. Like I know my H2, H4 buses. I will take that. Like it's fine. You know what I would rather happen? I was waiting for the H2 bus the other day for 30 minutes. Like I'm mad about that. Like I don't know. I don't mind. Like it's gonna be really hard to change the way that we like call these buses. I think like it just happened now. I am not so pressed about I'm not confused.
I'm 100% with Amanda. I think that it's for people who are, from here and familiar with the system, they know what it is now. When somebody moves someplace new or goes someplace new, they put the work into finding out where things go. But like the number of people who will be inconvenienced by a change seems like it's widely more than the number of potential like new recruits who are like, man, I would take that bus if I knew, if the name were something more convincing than like 32. And the problem with city bus routes is city bus routes go through all kinds of different neighborhoods. So calling it like the Georgetown Local or something, if we're talking about the 30 buses that run from Friendship Heights to across the river, calling it the Georgetown Local, yeah, they go through Georgetown, but they go through a lot of other places too. And, they probably have access to better brains than us, but I can't think of a better name.
Yeah, I will say one cool thing that at least New York City does that I think is really convenient is so for buses that are in Manhattan, it's like M and then like a number, or like BX for like the Bronx and then a number. So in that regard, right, it could be, I don't know, MD, like for Maryland, 1, or like VA 2 for Virginia, or DC 4 or something like that. Like, I think that might be a little bit helpful, but obviously you have buses that go in and out of DC, like to Virginia and Maryland. So do you do DM or whatever? Do you do VM if it's Virginia to Maryland? Like, obviously I get that this could be confusing, but I wonder if there's a way to just like streamline it a little bit,
Don't you think they could also just take advantage of like, back in the day when all these routes were named, they had like paper signs, that the driver would rotate by hand. So it would then say like, L2 Chevy Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's all digital. The sign on the bus, visible by people waiting for the bus, could say like Chevy Chase via X, Y, and Z. And you're actually able to convey a lot more information. And rather than like cooking up a new name, maybe invest in that. I don't know.
Yeah. All this to say, if you are a confused bus rider in the DC metro area, basically you have until September 28th to weigh in. That link will be in our show notes. So if you are very passionate about renaming the bus system, or if you're passionate more so about having your bus arrive every maybe 10 minutes instead of every 30, like Amanda, you should tell Metro.
All right, wait, so I just want to flag one other thing on the subject of rolling out new stuff. The Smithsonian American Art Museum has a really cool space on the 3rd floor. It historically has been like a lot cooler as a space and as a place to hang out and have things than as it has not nearly been given that level of importance in terms of what art they show there. But the gallery's been closed for the last couple of years. They are today reopening it with more than 100 pieces. It's super diverse. It is like pride of place for a lot of like really important contemporary art pieces. I think it's going to be a big hit. It also sends a big message about that museum, about the diversity and breadth of its collection. There's also a Alma Thomas show that's opening this week. She was a school teacher in DC, became later in her life a really prominent painter. But those two things I think are pretty exciting and things worth checking out for this weekend. Have you guys ever been in that space?
Yeah, actually, I remember several years ago, there was it was after hours. So they had like a party and like music. And I was like, this is very cool. I want to do more of that.
Right.
And saw some really interesting exhibit. One of the exhibits I was like reading through Kristen Kapp's article in the Washington Post about this opening, and I was really excited by Martin Gutierrez's exhibit. It's called Clubbing, which is I love immersive art. I like to take me there, like visually, like all of the senses being used, and it's like supposed to be like a dance floor, and like the idea is to like you're dancing and like your gender and identity just kind of like evaporates and you're just like a body and like moving, which I love. And I'm like really interested. Like I'm really into that. Like I think that's why I like Glenstone Museum a lot, because it's very immersive. But yeah, I'm into the new things that are happening there because the times I have been, they've been pretty cool.
That museum is, has so many cool spaces. The courtyard between the American Art Museum and the Portrait Gallery, most especially among them. So it's really cool to see a place which is a part of the museum where they had historically treated that as a really cool space, and now it's a really cool space with some of the collection that they are proudest of.
For sure. Yeah, I think when people think of like the Smithsonian's American Art Museum, they think of that like electronic superhighway, continental US, Hawaii, and Alaska piece that's like the gridded state lines. They're all kind of lit up. They have these like kind of TV things
Neon,
in them. Yeah, neon. And that is what I associate with that area. I think it's going to be cool to see something different and new, hopefully pop into that area. And that is like the gateway drug into like modern art, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Hey, Amanda, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Julia, always good to see you.
Thanks, Mike.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our lead producer is Priyanka Tilve. Our producer is Julia Karen. Our newsletter writer is Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Our production assistant is Susanna Brown. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and for heaven's sake, subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.